The main thing here is that when one sees a film, you see the characters on screen. It's not like reading where you imagine certain things. You see very specific things. You see a tree, you see a sword. So you take that, one takes that as truth. But in this film, you take it as truth, and then you find out that it is not necessarily true. And you see these various versions of the episode that has taken place that these people are talking about. And you're never told which is true and which isn't true, which leads you to the proper conclusion that it is all true and none of it's true.
In 1950, there was a movie made by Akira Kurosowa, one of the greatest of all time, and he made a movie called Rashomon. Now, Rashomon at the time was pretty radical for showing the same series of events multiple times, each time showing a slightly different intimation as to the people responsible for the events that happened. It's a husband and a wife traversing through a forest. They encounter a bandit, and by the end of it, there's an altercation of some sort, different motivations and different tellings of the story, and the husband ends up murdered. Now, who murdered, or how did he end up murdered? Who's responsible for the death? We don't have a real clean conclusion by the end of the story. The general takeaway is, like, reality is not quite what it seems. What you think you know is not quite so. And that's something I thought would be super relevant for today. And in some ways, that's kind of like an age-old philosophical kind of question, right? Just the nature of our physical, metaphysical reality. Like,
what is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
This human experience, what is real? What do I take away? Well, what we have with Rashomon is only intimations. It's kind of up to you, it's what you make of it, right? And today we have an ecosystem in our information where you kind of have to navigate in the same way as the knowns and the unknowns, right? So in Rashomon, there's the unknown motivations of all the characters. We're told one thing and then we're kind of contradicted in the next story. But what we know for sure is the characters, the couple, the forest, the bandit, and the murder. That's all we know for sure. That is the baseline. So there is a truth. There's just a lot of malleability in between, but there is a truth. So it's not all complete woo-woo off the wall. It's not it's not a story of a dream. It's not a story of like, oh, it turns out it's, aliens or something. Bringing it back to us and where we're at, what do we make of this? In our physical space, we are being pulled in different ways. Just waking up and you're drinking that cup of coffee, that is kind of pulling you one way. When you have a beer, when you have a shot of tequila, each one is going to affect you very differently, right? The food you eat, the people you encounter, the kinds of experiences you have, the music you're listening to, all of these are affecting your mood and affecting your perception. Right? So we kind of know this. We just don't really, we're not cognizant of it, all the time, right? We forget, and it's easy to kind of get bogged down, or the opposite. It's easy to be naive, right? I think another one though that isn't as spoken of often is the idea that the media that we consume, the very actual physical media, is affecting us.
When you say the medium is the message, does that leave any room at all for criticism of individual, say, television programs?
Or content.
Yes.
You see, it doesn't much matter what you say on the telephone. The telephone as a service is a huge environment, and that is the medium. And the environment affects everybody. What you say on the telephone affects very few. And the same with radio or any other medium. What you print is nothing compared to the effect of the printed word. The printed word sets up a paradigm, a structure of awareness which affects everybody, in very, very drastic ways, and it doesn't very much matter what you print as long as you go on with that form of activity.
Thank you. Now, someone from the audience, please. Yes.
If the medium is the message, and it doesn't matter what we say on TV, why are we all here tonight? And why am I asking this question?
I didn't say it didn't matter what you asked on TV. I said that the effect of TV, the message of TV, is quite independent of the program. That is, there is a huge technology involved in TV which surrounds you physically. And the effect of that huge service environment on you personally is vast. The effect of the program is incidental.
When you read The Great Gatsby in a physical book, you're going to feel physically different. Like if you're reading that for half an hour, that's a different reaction that you're going to have as opposed to listening to it for half an hour or watching one of the many, the way you interpret that movie, and then, sitting down, watching that in a dark room or on your phone where the battery's dying and the speaker's kind of shitty, you're in a very real way gonna walk away different. It's the same information, right? But you're taking it in differently. Information is just overly abundant for one individual to kind of sort through. So we need to index it, we need to categorize it, and we have a series of entities doing this for us in different forms, right? Depending on whatever service or application we're entering, whatever space we're trying to navigate, it is in one form or another being catered to us. And slowly but surely we're kind of walking away from the experience of stumbling through information and discovering something kind of unique and cool, and we're going into this very comforting experience of being recommended something. It's kind of like it's recommending you the information based off of yesterday. We're getting more and more accurate depictions of who you are in different aspects of your life yesterday. You're never going to be in a spot in this information space where you're getting, algorithms dictate your information. You're never going to truly discover anything new. You're just going to get recommended. One of the many factors contributing to these feedback loops, to these echo chambers that we have. We think we have like a well-rounded understanding. There's people that are completely indoctrinated one way or the other in whatever pieces of information, right? So, like someone who's totally paleo is not going to listen to anything vegan. Someone totally left isn't going to listen to anyone right, or vice versa, or whatever, right? There's a mix mash of whatever team you want. And that's kind of the thing. It's like this is kind of incentivizing old wiring in this hardware, where we're flipping on the light switch of tribalism, right? We're picking teams. That part of the brain is firing up because we're being very receptive to very minuscule pieces of information, and we think we have a full picture, but we don't. So the more we become cognizant of that, more aware of that you do not have the full picture and that others do not have the full picture, communicating with each other may or may not help.
By the way, at this moment,
Right.
We are on the air, and on the air we do not have any physical body. When you're on the telephone or on radio or on TV, you don't have a physical body. You're just an image on the air. When you don't have a physical body, you're a discarnate being. You have a very different relation to the world around you. And this, I think, has been one of the big effects of the electric age. It has deprived people really of their private identity.
So that's what this is doing to me?
Yes. Everybody tends to merge his identity with other people at the speed of light. By the way, one of the big marks of the loss of identity is nostalgia. And so revivals on all hands in every phase of life today. Revivals of clothing, of dances, of music, of shows, of everything. We live by the revival. It tells us who we are or were.
As aware as you think you are, as conscious as you believe yourself to be, you're being affected in more than one way. You're being pulled in more than one way. Some of it intentionally, some of it is just kind of just the nature of it, right? Like we're barely figuring out how we're being affected by social media, by television, by music, and we have a rudimentary understanding of what the long-term effects this is going to be to children, to adults, to like this thing's moving quicker than our nervous system, than us. So I don't know.